Okay, try this again. First, I gotta go to my content, delete the first cosmic weave that I just did, and well, actually, gotta do it for um, X as well. Delete that one. Gotta delete. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Really irritates me when I have to do shit like this. Okay. Okay. Let me test this. Oh, now I'll go to the channel. For kick. Yeah, this is annoying. Just to say, this is annoying. Okay, let me hit refresh. Make sure it's live streaming. All right, so it's good on Rumble. Getting back to YouTube, making sure we got YouTube set up now on the wonderful world of weirdness. Check out the audio, make sure it's all set up. I accidentally did the stream on the strange stories, and sounds like it's working on Twitch. It's back up on X. It's good on Twitch. It is good on D Live, and now it is going on Kick too. So everything, it all sounds good. Now I got to go to my channel on Kick if it shows my replays down below, which it's supposed to do, but it's not. And once it does that, yeah, I don't want panels. I don't know why it keeps showing that panel. I want to see previous episodes. That stuff drives me nuts. Okay, I'll get it later, I guess. So it looks like everything is up and running. So I got 3 minutes. I'm going to go grab some coffee and then I'm going to come back and get started. We are doing the Cosmic Weave, and uh, this is going to be the episode that talks about the scientific side of it with the human brain. So we've got everything set up and ready to go. I got my notes, or my reading, I should say, that's put together. I freaking usually do my streams about freaking 5 p.m. But today I'm running back, or I'm running behind on my writing part of everything, so I had to write this out, get the um, grammar and spelling straight. After I'm done with this, I'm going to turn it into a blog, which I have on Medium. You can check that out if you want to. I go by freaking Omega Red on there. So, with that being said, let me go get my coffee before it hits 9 o'clock, and I'll be right back. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the another episode of the Cosmic Weave. I'm Roger Hanson, and I am here to present another podcast episode and live stream of the Cosmic Weave here on the wonderful world of weirdness, as well as strange stories. You can find strange stories on YouTube and minds.com, and you can find the wonderful world of weirdness on YouTube as well as on Rumble. Besides that, I'm streaming the episodes on uh, Twitch, X, D Live, and Kick. So you can find it there as well, just under Infamous 1969 on Twitch, and also Roger Hanson, or at ROGLOL1973 on X. I'm also on D Live as Roger underscore Hanson, and I am Roger underscore Hanson on Kick as well. So that's where you can find me. If you ever want to check out the other material that I have, I stream all of those on there, and they're easy to find. All you got to do is find me at those locations. With that being said, I will get on to the, the episode. Now, this is technically part 3 of my scientific side to the Cosmic Weave. I have been discussing uh, ancient theology, ancient lore, ancient uh, religion, whatever you want to call it, ancient beliefs about uh, primordial um, the primordial beginnings of the cosmic weave, basically. And I've also been delving into topics concerning the scientific aspects of it. Um, Now you can hear other people discuss the cosmic weave, and they do have their own interpretations of it. Mine does differ in a few ways. Like a lot of people who discuss the cosmic weave believe in these networks of nexuses that are set up with that link to one another, so that information can be connected to it. I personally don't follow in that tradition. I believe that instead of these being, well, like it can be called the nexus too, but it's also I refer to it as the axis Monday. I believe there's one nexus point where information is sent to, processed, and uh, put out into the cosmos. Um, According to this theory, that would make more sense to me. Um, and you'll hear a lot of sources refer um, to they'll be using words that like primordial, and that's basically where I have gone to in the last parts of my area that relate to theology, belief systems, and things of that nature. As well as that, with this one, I'm going to be going from the human brain outward, where we'll be discussing things. Well, first of all, I started discussing pathways within the brain, uh, um, the neural system and circuitry and all that of that. And now I'm starting to just now relate it to the outside world. Like I was talking about theta waves, delta waves, gamma waves, and things like that that work within the brain, the human brain, or every brain actually. And I started giving examples of theta like patterns that are in the environment around us, gamma like patterns, gamma wave like patterns, and delta like wave patterns as well. That would pertain to like um, you know, the freaking ecosystem where animals, the predator prey relationship, that would be a pattern that goes within uh, those type of topics. You also have to look at like migration of birds, the patterns they do. That's also something that relates to these waves that are within your brain. Oceanic waves too are also related to all this. We've covered it in previous episodes, but I just wanted to kind of bring it up and you know get back onto the topic after I mentioned that. So, with that being said, I am going to get started with the reading, and I hope you guys enjoy. Um, so, here we go. Now, the cerebellum contains uh, deep cerebellar nuclei, which are clusters of neurons serving as the cerebellum's output channels. These nuclei send signals to other parts of the brain to execute and fine-tune movements. They do this by processing input received from the spinal cord, sensory systems, and other parts of the brain. The cerebellum doesn't initiate movement, but rather adjusts and refines motor commands to ensure accuracy and precision. It continues to monitor and modify motor commands, allowing for fluid movements and the ability to adapt to changing conditions. Neuroplasticity is a process that enables the cerebellum to adjust to changes within the vestibular system. Vestibular rehabilitation therapy is one of several approaches that harness the cerebellum's plasticity in order to improve balance and coordination. Through therapeutic exercises that challenge the vestibular system, the cerebellum is encouraged to adapt and help restore balance. Before I go any further, I want to apologize to everybody because of my horrible reading. I have a bad habit of pronouncing words horribly, so I apologize. Now, through neuromodulation, a physiological process, certain neurons use chemicals to regulate diverse populations of other neurons, modifying their activity rather than directly triggering an action potential. Unlike traditional neurotransmission, which works through point-to-point synaptic communication to produce immediate, short-lived effects, neuromodulation has more prolonged and widespread influences on the neural network. This modulation can affect the excitability, firing patterns, or responsiveness of entire neural circuits, reshaping how information is processed in the brain or nervous system over time. A variety of chemical messengers act as neuromodulators, such as dopamine, serotonin, nor, 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 norep, nor, I have a hard time with this one. Norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and certain neuropeptides. Yeah. Okay, these substances don't necessarily cause neurons to fire, but instead adjust the conditions under which firing might occur. Dopamine might increase the likelihood of neuron responding to input, while serotonin might reduce responsiveness in another context. This capacity to finely tune neural activity makes neuromodulation fundamental for behavior flexibility, mood regulation, arousal, attention, reward learning, motor control, and the sleep-wake cycle. The transition from wakefulness to sleep is governed by changing channels of neuromodulators like acetylcholine, that's the word, and norepinephrine. There it is, norepinephrine. Now, acetylcholine enhances the signal-to-noise ratio in sensory systems, making the brain more attuned to relevant stimuli. In the reward system, dopamine adjusts motivational salience, reinforcing behaviors that result in pleasurable outcomes. Beyond pharmacology, this concept has also been applied in technological inventions. Medical devices that deliver electrical or magnetic stimulation, such as deep brain stimulation, vagus nerve stimulation, and transcranial magnetic stimulation, can modulate neural activity. What makes neuromodulation especially intriguing is that it acts as a regulatory overlay to the brain's communication system. Rather than altering the content of signals traveling through neural circuits, it changes how those signals are perceived, prioritized, or integrated. It functions as a higher order control system that can modify an overall tone, pace, or that can modify or overall uh, no the overall tone, pace, or responsiveness of neural operations, allowing the brain to adapt to both internal states and external demands. A brand of physiology called electrophysiology studies the electrical properties of biological cells and tissues. It focuses on the flow of ions in biological systems and how these ionic movements generate electrical currents that drive cellular activity, particularly in neurons, muscle fibers, and cardiac tissues. Electrophysiology investigates how electrical signals are generated, transmitted, and interpreted within organisms, and how these signals control functions ranging from the heartbeat to thought. It emphasizes how neurons use electrical impulses or action potentials to communicate. These impulses are created when a neuron membrane potentially when a neuron's membrane potential rapidly shifts due to the movement of sodium, potassium, calcium, and chloride ions across the cell membrane through specialized proteins called ion channels. The voltage changes that result propagate along axons and lead to the release of neurotransmitters at synapses, enabling the signal to transfer to the next cell. Electrophysiological recordings capture this activity either at the level of single neurons or across populations of cells, offering insights into the timing, pattern, and strength of neural communications. One technique in electrophysiology is the use of the electroencephalogram, which measures electrical activity in the brain via electrodes placed on the scalp. It allows researchers to examine patterns of brain waves such as delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma rhythms, which correspond to different states of consciousness, attention, and cognitive function. Intracellular recordings allow scientists to explore the electrical behavior of individual neurons, including their responses to synaptic input and firing characteristics. Electrophysiology is also applied to muscle physiology, sensory systems, and even artificial systems that interact with the body. Devices like cochlear implants and brain-machine interfaces depend on principles of electrophysiology to convert electrical signals into input, inputs and outputs for communication or control. Biological function is governed by rapid changes in feedback loops that happen in milliseconds. Electrophysiological techniques provide a window into these quick processes, helping researchers understand how organisms respond to stimuli and how information moves through networks. The concept of the cognitive cerebellum is gaining attraction in neuroscience. The cerebellum is involved in higher level cognitive functions such as planning, decision making, and problem solving. It depends on its it depends on its intricate neural circuitry to coordinate movement and process sensory input. This circuitry includes various types of fibers and neurotransmitters that work together to fine-tune motor commands. Two primary fiber types in this system are mossy fibers and climbing fibers. Now, these are what I have used as references when it comes to this topic, the cosmic weave. Now, usually I keep the scientific side separate from the other side, but where I want to add in here is when you look at the world tree, you're looking at these. You're looking at the idea of these branches that are spread all around the world from the world tree. Um, Now, when it comes to the brain, you have to understand that you have this circuitry that's running through your brain, and there's various types of fibers and neurotransmitters that work together. And what they're doing is fine tuning your motor commands. And these fibers types, there's two of them. There's the mossy fibers and the climbing fibers. Now, I've actually used that as references here in the past on different things that I've done. And this is actually what I'm talking about when it comes to this. So that's important to understand as I go further into this. These fibers are very, very important, and um, they're very well. They're just very, very important, I guess. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and continue where I left off. So these mossy fibers originate from multiple sources, including the spinal cord and brainstem, and project to the cerebral cortex. They uh, they they synapse into granule cells, which in turn send parallel fibers to synapse onto. This is one that's really tricky. It's uh, per, uh, Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells. Purkinje cells. The Purkinje cells then send inhibitory signals to deep cellular nuclei, which act as the cerebellum's output channels. Now, climbing fibers, in contrast, originate from the inferior olive in the brainstem and project directly to Purkinje cells. Each Purkinje cell receives input from a single climbing fiber, which delivers powerful excitatory input. This distinctive setup allows climbing fibers to play a key role in motor learning and plasticity. Now, plasticity is what I had been discussing earlier too, where the brain is capable of rerouting its neurological system, its circuitry. If a part of the brain is damaged, it can literally rewire itself. It also is capable of doing other things as well, which I've started to discuss again here. But I just wanted to point out that that's what plasticity is. It's your brain's ability to actually rewire and change directions when it comes to the neurons and things of that nature. But it's also able to go in and determine what is needed and what's not needed, and things of that nature. And this is where we're going to start getting into that area. This is another part of plasticity that kind of goes even further into what I've discussed before. So, with that being said, I'm going to go right back to it now. Now, long-term potentiation and long-term depression are also integral to the cerebellum circuitry as forms of synaptic plasticity. Long-term potentiation and long-term depression occur at the synapses between parallel fibers and uh, Purkinje cells, allowing the cerebellum to adjust to allowing the cerebellum to adjust the strength of these connections based on experience. This in turn fine-tunes motor commands in response to changing conditions. These are two essential processes that support the brain's ability to learn, remember, and adapt. These phenomena take place in the synapses where neurons communicate with one another, involving enduring changes in the strength of those connections. These mechanisms are central to what is known as synaptic plasticity, the brain's ability to change its structure and function in response to experience, activity, or environmental inputs. Long-term potentiation refers to a sustained increase in synaptic strength that follows high-frequency stimulation of the synapses. When two neurons are repeatedly and synchronously activated, the connection between them grows stronger over time. This improved efficiency means that future signals between the neurons are more likely to elicit a response. This process is a vital mechanism through which memories are encoded and stored in the brain. At the cellular level, long-term potentiation involves a variety of changes, including increased neurotransmitter release, heightened receptor sensitivity, or quality or quantity, especially in glutamate receptors, and structural changes like the development of new synaptic spines. These adaptations allow the receiving neuron to respond more vigorously to the same input in the future. Conversely, long-term depression is a lasting decrease in synaptic strength. It happens when synapses are activated at a low frequency over a prolonged period, or when neurons' activity is out of sync. Instead of reinforcing the connection, long-term depression weakens it, effectively reducing the signal transmission between involved neurons. This is not a form of damage or loss, but a refinement. Long-term depression is believed to support processes like forgetting, clearing irrelevant or outdated information, and avoiding saturation of synaptic activity, which is essential for preserving the adaptability of neural networks. Now, right here, it gets into the area where I was talking about where our brain, while we're asleep, uh, processes the information that we've gathered within the day. It determines if this is good or if this isn't good. Now, if it's bad information, it'll set it over here to this side. If it's good information, it'll put it over here to the other side. And it'll just go through all of the information that we've collected throughout the day in our memory. Okay. And when it's done with that, it takes the information that it feels is not necessary or not really relevant or needed, and it just gets rid of it. You know what I mean? So after it does that, it takes the memories that are needed, that it feels is important and necessary, and it takes and sends it to our long-term memory where it's stored and it's kept. This process is something that else that I wanted to bring up and discuss, because you'll hear about people who are involved in um, being abductions with UFOs and stuff, talking about lost time. You know, um, now I've also said some other things, but especially when it comes to that, like lost time, there could be possibly a type of technology that's used to where these beings are able to block out your mind, make it to where you don't remember. And this would be what it is. They would be able to tap into this part of the brain so that they could make it to where you literally freaking just get rid of the information that's just happened to you. Um, and this is something that really stuck out to me. I have never brought it up before, but it's a part of that too. You know what I mean? There's people who believe in lost civilizations, that talk about us being in freaking a state of amnesia. You know, this could actually be a part of that as well. There's so many things that this part of the brain could be a part of when it comes to those kind of things as well. And on the parapsychology side of things, a lot of them always discuss like what we perceive and what we think we see, might not actually be what we're seeing. And this would be a part of that as well. I used a UFO, for example. People will look up and they see a UFO and they believe that that's what they see, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what's there. It could be something that your brain is capable of perceiving. It could be some kind of technology that's making you just see that, instead of what's actually there. And the reason why I say that for is because I've been listening to some people who are into parapsychology, and they talk about old folklore, especially in England, where people believe in the fairy folk and people believe in ogres and trolls and things of that nature, And they also believe in uh, they used to believe in having festivals in their fields, and they would do it regularly. So that became a ritual that was done in the fields. And now today we're having uh, crops crop circles pop up in the middle of these same fields that used to have these festivals take place that celebrated the harvest and things of that nature. Where we're seeing UFOs now, back 200-300 years ago, people were seeing, the fairy folk, or they were seeing freaking, trolls or imps or gnomes and things of that nature. So there could be a correlation there, you know what I mean? Um, and that's also something that's very fascinating to me too, because that's allowing us to look out, um, look look at different points of views when it comes to that. And I'm not saying that UFOs don't do or don't exist. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that there's more um, there's more things to look at too than just what everybody thinks there is. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to put that out there and kind of go over that, because this is a very important part of what I was talking about before. And this is actual scientific research. You know what I mean? This isn't anything that's mystical. This isn't anything that's, been kept away from people, classified, anything of that nature. This is information that anybody can look up and find out for themselves if they want to take a look at it. If you, because my reading is bad, if you have a problem with words that I've said and you want me to like tell you how to spell the words for future reference, if you're wanting to find stuff out, make a comment in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to share how to spell it, um, things of that nature. And with that, I am going to go ahead and continue reading. Now, both long term potentiation and long term depression depend heavily on calcium signaling within the neurons. The magnitude and timing of calcium influx through receptors determine which process will occur. A large, rapid influx typically induces long-term potentiation, while a smaller, slower influx tends to favor long-term depression. These processes are not uniform across all brain regions, but are especially well studied in the hippocampus, a region associated with learning and memory. However, they also take place in the cortex, cerebellum, and other regions where they support sensory processing, motor learning, and cognitive flexibility. Long-term potentiation and long-term depression are not simple opposites. They work together as complementary mechanisms that fine-tune neural networks over time. Learning involves not only strengthening relevant connections, but also weakening those that are unnecessary. This balance permits effective storage, retrieval, and revision of information. The flexibility these mechanisms offer ensure that the brain can respond to new experiences, shift focus, and alter behavior. Long-term potentiation and long-term depression form a cellular foundation for which for much of what is understood as memory, learning, and neural adaptability. So, with all of that being said, yes, it does function to help the brain function so that you're able to learn, you're able to adapt to, circumstances or situations change according to your environment, things of that nature. You're able to shift focus. You can respond to new experiences, and It also helps you to alter your behavior. You know what I mean? And those are very, very important things that you have to have. That involve just everyday moving and everyday learning and stuff. But I personally believe that this stuff actually goes further. Um, Reading this stuff, and the more I read it and the more that I find out about this stuff and what the brain by itself is capable of doing, it just completely amazes me. It just keeps getting more and more amazing. And the the next part that I'm going to be focusing on is going into the mossy fibers, and the fibers. Period. Um, these are the next step in where I'm going with it, and also it's going to be more going outside of the brain and looking at other things that are going on around us. I've kind of started with things that are going on in the real world with natural phenomena, natural patterns, and things of that nature. But I also want to kind of get into, um, for one thing, computer systems and how they're coming up with a lot of neural networks for computer systems that they're using the brain and how it works as examples. That right there by itself is pretty amazing that they're actually using the human brain as an example to create um, computer programs. We've been discussing AI and everything. Me and Mark Edworthy and Tanhai Tran and Mr. Robot quite a bit, and this is something that's a part of. You'll hear a lot of people who are into parapsychology bring this topic or these topics up too. And this is what I said when I first started this series. This is probably the most popular, unpopular subject because they go in and they cherry pick on it. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to get the whole story on certain aspects that are being mentioned. Like I mentioned with the primordial reference, a lot of remote viewers, people who are into remote viewing and parapsychology will always talk about that primordial part of it, but they never really elaborate on what they're talking about. So this is what I've been learning when it comes to the primordial aspects of the cosmic weave and where these ideas, in my opinion, are originating from. Um, these these are things that have been believed in and talked about for thousands of years. This is older than Gaia out of the Greek mythology. You know what I mean? It's actually what created the whole ideology behind the Greek and Roman mythologies, as well as other religious belief systems. Indo-European was responsible for Buddhism, Hinduism. It was responsible for Greek mythology, Greek theology, whatever you want to call it. I don't really like calling it mythology or myth, to be honest, because those people at that time believed in it as a religion. So that kind of doesn't really sit well with me when I say that. So um, that is pretty much what I have to say with the reading and everything. I've covered a lot of it. Now, I do want to come back and go into a different area on this because, like I said, I've been focusing a lot on the on equilibrium in the human brain. That's very important to understand. It's very important to understand what equilibrium is, first of all, and how the brain works. But after that, I want to start talking about equilibrium in the third eye. The third eye is something that a lot of people talk about and a lot of people believe. So that's where I start moving into that. I also want to get into other things outside of this. I want to start talking about the nexus between biology and genetics and myth. You know what I mean? How it all intertwines with one another, and eventually everything starts becoming more like this, where I'm actually having a conversation with you rather than um, reading. You know what I mean, and stuff of that nature. But I really hope that I'm doing an okay job at kind of explaining where I'm coming from with all this because I do enjoy doing this. This has been a project that I've been working on for quite a few years, to be honest with you. Probably back when I first started doing all of this. There's a lot of stuff involved, not just ancient religions and ancient theology and mythology and all that stuff, but there's alchemy involved in it as well. There's science involved in it. There's quite a bit of stuff. things that freaking I believe people today overlook. Things that relate to us and the environment around us. Um, so I believe that I enjoyed doing this stuff. And putting it all together was a pretty tough job until I started getting into, like this. I believe I've said it before about when I found out what the difference between duality and dualism is. Where freaking with duality, you have two opposing forces that accompany one another, rather than dualism, which is two opposing forces that are in constant conflict. When you start looking at this stuff with the eyes of duality, you start seeing where things kind of complement one another rather than fight against it. And you start seeing that it's in all of nature, and that if you look hard enough, you can find out where the human brain actually uh, is mirroring the same things that you see in nature. And if the human brain and the natural world accompany one another, then that would only logically say that the cosmos is the same way as what the natural and the mental is. So I personally believe that you have to live a life that's consists of the mental, the the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual all in the same world. You can't have one. You can't pick and choose all of them. You gotta have it. You gotta think about all of that. So um, for me, I don't get caught up in religion, but I do believe in spiritual principles and stuff like that. I've chosen to live that way for a reason. Someday maybe I'll get more involved in that, but I don't want to get all churchy with everybody. Um, so let me see if I've got anybody who is on here that's actually saying anything. We've got 3 people on Rumble. We've had 23 views on YouTube. I never can tell if anybody's been on YouTube or on Twitch or X or D Live for that matter. I guess I had Dragus Production uh, on before, but I believe that was on a previous episode on D Live. So, but thanks anyhow for stopping by. Um, and nobody is on Kick. Now I've got messages from Alan, Alan, Alinally Baby, and with giving me the C, whatever that is. I've got to get used to Kick. They got all these hip new things on there. All these cool new freaking emoji codes and stuff that they put in there that I know absolutely nothing about. So I've got to learn all about that. So that is pretty much the end of it. I really do wish that I could do this for an hour. You know what I mean? But apparently I didn't have enough to cover 1 hour. So what I am going to do is just say thank you for watching. If you guys liked the stream, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. Please make comments. I do appreciate feedback on anything. If you have an opinion about it, say it. I love to have conversations down in the comment section. Chat's good, don't get me wrong, but I do enjoy talking in the comment section. And besides that, it helps the channel. A lot of people forget that, they worry too much about the algorithm and they don't understand. Like, if you put comments in somebody's channel, then that shows that it's an active channel. If YouTube or Rumble or any of them don't freaking see many comments in the comment section, they start thinking that it's an inactive channel and it gets less views. Oh, I don't know about Rumble, but I know that's how YouTube does it. So if you guys want to help support me, make comments and in the comment section, and I always answer those comments, just so you know. So um, I appreciate everybody for showing up and listening. If you enjoyed, freaking thank you for watching, and I'm glad you did enjoy it. Hope everybody has a good morning, night, evening, whatever it is that in the area that you're in. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So thanks for watching, guys.